Welcome, everyone. I am Robin from Western Massachusetts, the co-host for the Sunday Morgellons Call of the Week. Today is Sunday, August 6th, the first Sunday in August. And the hummingbirds are going crazy, stocking up on sugar water. I think it's going to be an early fall. I hate to say that. But, yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Western Mass. I'm so grateful to be here on this call with you guys. Richard Kuhns and his book, How to Get Your Life Back from Morgellons and Other Skin Parasites, literally saved my life. Saved my house. I was going to burn it down. I was trying to figure out how to do that. I'm not a pyromaniac, but I was ready to give it a shot. And so, you know, it's filled with just chock full of good advice. It has the amazing King diet that we don't know why it seems to put parasites to sleep or quiets them, but nothing works without the diet, and the diet is amazing. And it's not, you know, it has 3 stages, and yes, stage 1 can be a challenge, but there's so much room for creativity, which is why stress management is so important, because you can't be creative if you're living in fight or flight. That's a story for another time. But I'm just saying that Richard Kuhns has made it possible for so many people to get their lives back through coaching, through this call, through his book, which is about to be released in the 13th edition. That's a lot of editions. Woohoo! And it's because he never stops researching. He never stops learning. He is there for us. He answers questions. He answers emails when he sees them. Sometimes they get lost and fall through the cracks, but mostly he answers them. And, you know, and he's been in the trenches. He found solutions because he was living it. He was living with this stuff. It's not just head knowledge. It's experiential. And I think he's a world-leading expert on all of this. So I'm so honored to be part of this group and to be the co-host for this call. And at this time, I'd like to welcome and introduce Richard Kuhns, author of How to Get Your Life Back from Morgellons and Other Skin Parasites.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here every Sunday. Mary was earlier saying it's like I sacrificed my Sundays to be here with you. I don't look at it that way at all. It's truly an honor to be here and be supportive of each and every one of you. And I know from firsthand experience how miserable these organisms can be, how they can ruin your attitude, your life, how they can destroy you. And when you go for help, there is just no help. The luckiest that you can be is to find a doctor who will not diagnose you as being delusional, but who might say, well, you might have Morgellons, but I don't know what the hell to do about it. That's about the best you can do. And fortunately, as Robin said, I experienced all of it. And just as each and every one of you that I ever come in contact with, as soon as you find out the doctor has no answers, you start your own research projects. I researched all kinds of things for years and for about 1.5 years and got nowhere, absolutely nowhere, until somebody suggested possible correlation between the organisms and diet, and that was the turnaround. That's why I am alive today and here today to be with you. And today we have a guest. Her name is Robin, and she came upon the organisms. It's a theme that seems to be showing up. Cats. C-A-T-S, not the musical on Broadway, but the ones living outside. So, hi, Robin. How are you today?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad to finally have the courage to be here and talk with you.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy you joined us. It's so enlightening and provides so much encouragement for other people to follow our footsteps and get their lives back. So tell us how you initially got infected.
Yeah, and let me be clear. For me, it's mites, not Morgellons, so that everyone knows that what we're talking about. I would have to say, so what I originally thought was the date of getting infested was not the original date, but I'll just go from the point where it really sort of blew up, and that was in 2019. It was in March of 2021. Okay, March of 2021, where I had kind of a swarm of them in my scalp. I had been in contact with a cat that would come to our back porch where me and my husband were living in San Francisco at that time. So by the way, you can call me Robin from California too, as far as identity, since there's two Robins here.
I was going to say Robin 1 and Robin 2, and you're Robin 1 for the day.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So basically, and I'm a cat lover, so this is a real tough thing, and I'm sure for those who are cat lovers, real tough thing. So this cat was actually owned, but it was a neighborhood cat. The owner let it roam about, and I would see it kind of hopping around in weeds and things. And then unbeknownst to us, we also had rats roaming around. I started to see them at some point in the stairwell at our back sort of porch area that joins other neighbors' porches. And that was almost too late because I had already been petting the cat, touching the cat. We've even picked it up. It was super affectionate. And then one day, I don't know, it cried at our door, and I let it in. And apparently the owner had not, let it in before nightfall, and it was crying because it really took a liking to us. We let it in. I put a blanket on the couch, put it on the couch, let it be there. It was there for 4 hours. I let it back out in the middle of the night. And then not too long after, I probably laid on the couch, and then all of a sudden I could feel a swarm of things in my scalp, and I was like, what is going on? Soon thereafter, it really kind of, I guess you could say, molted and sort of expanded to other parts of my body, where it caused complete havoc, as you all know, for those who have had this experience. And these are the biting mites, burrowing type biting mites.
Right.
And they're coming from rats, and the cats have some access to them. Because if they're an outdoor cat, well, there you have it, right? And we had rats in our building. I came to find out, and that was too late. I had already touched the cat. But just kind of fast forwarding back in time, we lived in another apartment in San Francisco area, and I found out that we had taken sort of we had helped a feral cat on our back porch. And the first time that I ever saw, and this is kind of adding up the pictures from the past and then the present, or recent past, we saw these black specks that appeared on our mattress, and we didn't know what they were. We had no idea. We're thinking, is it mold? What is it? It's just, we looked and we're like, we don't know what this is. Lo and behold, it had come from a feral cat that was kind of sickly, that we allowed to be in our back balcony. We never let it in, and we never were able to touch it, but somehow something got in our place, probably through shoes or, any of those things, hands touching. Mm-hmm. And so really, truly, it started back in 2015, and these are both cat-oriented situations, and that first cat died from some stomach thing, and I do believe the cat was probably seriously infested with mites, and it just killed it. Killed it.
So after you noticed that you had the symptoms of all this itching and the biting sensations, what did you do to try to take control of it? Did you go to any doctors? Tell us a little bit about your trek to find relief.
Yeah. I did, and it's funny, Richard. The first cat that I talked about back in 2015, the feral cat that we sort of tried to help, I noticed the itching then, itching in my scalp that was just at the top. It was mild. It would be there, and then it would go away. Itchy in the legs, and I noticed even I had pain in my hands back then, which I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was causing that. And then fast forward to 2021 March, yes, when I first looked up a let's see, I think I went the route of ivermectin. Okay, that was my first route of I got to do something. And this one naturopath that I found in Connecticut that was referred to me by a friend, she said maybe this guy can help you. I got ivermectin. I went to an emergency clinic. They gave me all the, those creams for, I don't know, infestation.
Yeah,
all that stuff, and it was useless.
Quell.
Absolutely useless. Yeah, all that. I tried all those. Useless, did not work. The ivermectin, I think, what it did was it kind of sedated the situation a little bit, you know what I mean? It sort of helped me to live so I can sort of figure it out, but I was still in dire straits and in some pain and discomfort for sure. Fast forward, I went to finally finding a local naturopath. I wanted to see someone in person who could actually kind of look at me, treat me, talk to me, because the doctors thought I was nuts. Yeah, I went to a doctor who did prescribe me the ivermectin in person at a local kind of hospital.
But they didn't prescribe prednisone as well?
No. And this doctor actually got yelled at by another doctor for giving me ivermectin. Do you believe that?
Really? Yeah.
Yes, he got yelled at. And
but
like,
still the wrong medication, but nevertheless.
Right, but apparently it's a parasitic type of, it's a parasitic, anti-parasitic. So I know that it could be, it's useful to a certain degree. Moving on, I went to this naturopath in the Marin County area, and he helped me with clearing my gut. And I might want to say that, just to preface this part of the talk, I have had gut issues since I was a child, from antibiotics, major gut gastrointestinal pain from certain foods, but mostly from, antibiotics, meats that were not properly either cooked or stored or what have you. And I had problems all my life. Okay, so I did try to help myself in the 2000s to try to clean my gut. So that was happening, and I was already starting on the path of gluten-free to some degree. Had not removed all those things from my diet. So I went to the naturopath, and he said, you really have sensitivities to this, this, and this. You should stop eating this, this, and this. And, of course, gluten things, cheese things, grain things, and he was able to tell me what I was allergic to. He gave me essential oils for like clove and other ones from the Young Living brand essential oils for my scalp. So I was doing some of that. Another chiropractor who was more of a what they call orthogonal type chiropractor, has a lot of more naturopathic remedies, homeopathic. She gave me kind of a type of wintergreen type of oil that I could put on where the bites and the burrows, those marks were. Mm-hmm. So I had some of these things. I was able to, through the naturopath in Marin, I was cleaning my gut. They were giving me standard process, highest level, highest grade and most expensive supplements to help clean your gut, to do all these things to kind of get me back to sort of a neutral place and to help aid in dealing and coping with what I was going through. Now, mind you, the naturopath wasn't totally convinced that I had these mites, which is interesting. And neither did my husband, unfortunately, for the first year. So I was living in pure hell, unsupported.
Yes, that is really a challenge for many of us. And for everyone out there listening to us, although this call is about our, basically Morgellons, 90% of us with Morgellons also have mites, and some of them are easy to get rid of, as mine were. But for many of us, those mites are as bad as Morgellons, and they need to be gotten rid of. Otherwise, you'll never get a handle on Morgellons or even Calumbula. So it is important. So then after you've gone through the different chiropractor and the other people, how did you get any diagnosis from physicians, or did you primarily stick with the more holistic group?
I stayed with the holistic group because even we're talking everyone from the exterminator that kind of treated our bed, which we had to get rid of, a very expensive wedding gift that was wool, natural latex, beautiful,
wow.
Gone, garbage. The exterminator told me there was nothing in there, and I just thought to myself, there is. I know there is. I lint roll these sheets every night. I see it. They're in there, these black specks. I didn't even get a proper diagnosis from the exterminator. The doctors told me I was nuts. No, I don't know. Really, I don't think so. And then even my naturopath, and then finally the naturopath, he sort of understood because he did his own research. He was a smart man. He wouldn't rule out things. He would go and research. And so this is a blessing because he was probably one of the kindest and most nurturing doctors I've ever had in my entire life. So he started kind of looking into it and said, yes, this is what they are. And if you have them, he talked about my psychological, how I was perceiving it. And, going from sort of this sort of emotional psychological to, the internal gut. And, they guided me from the internal, but I had to start branching out because even with essential oils, and we're talking thousands of dollars later, okay, after going to them, out of pocket, the essential oils to the supplements to the actual hourly, I pretty much drained my savings for the most part. So I then, since the beginning, like all of you, we've all been researching head to toe on the internet, crazy. And I was fortunate enough to have a few friends. A friend who knew a friend that had mites, and they were through a cat, and there were rats in the building. Same thing. She told me about some kind of, parasitic formula she was using, and it was working for her. And I don't know, something told me to just keep looking. I almost kind of bought that program that she bought, but I started looking again, and I think just in my desperate searches, I came upon Richard's video and or website. I don't know in which order, but I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I found this. I finally found this, and I kept looking because, the naturopaths only do so much for you. They're going to help you clean your gut and get your pH back or your gut and tell you what you're allergic to, give you supplements. And yes, that did help. It was effective, I do believe. And I got strict with my diet, stricter. So we're talking, no wheat, no bread, no cheese, no sugar, no everything. And I already had and mind you, I already had a pretty good diet because I had already had a nudge in my intuition to look into this stuff back in around 2010. I was already kind of doing some detoxing and internal gut cleansers and things like that. Something was telling me to do this. And then, the wonderful, unfortunately, infested cats came along and blew this up. So I found your video, I don't know how, by some act of God. And if I cry, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
But it has been the saving grace for me. Your information, because in sequence, I've read your diet booklet. I have followed it mostly pretty much to the same idea. I've used my intuition about what other things I'm allergic to or can't have, but I have followed it, and I've been strict ever since. I have taken night and pyrum, fenbendazole, lucineron, and chitosanase in sequence in a very kind of timing that sort of I listen to my intuition. The chitosanase is what I'm on currently, and only, and I take 4 of those daily. I have been taking it for a handful of months. They are effective more than I can say, and I have a quality of life back that I've never thought I'd see. And I cannot thank you enough. And I have thanked the people that sell these items. I've written to them. I have reviewed you on Amazon, all of it. And I just cannot thank you enough. I have to be very strict. Right now, some of the other aids, and you can take this or leave this, but things that I use on my skin daily that I find are extremely effective for me personally. I use Dr. Brenner's mint soap. I wash with that. I even will put it on the spots that are, say, itching or, say, active at night when I go to bed. It quells it. It keeps it down. In the morning, I will spray my scalp with regular white vinegar. I see the mites come out. And I comb my hair while it's wet with that. I will put magnesium oil on different areas of my skin for daytime. And I have seen results. I will soak my feet at night with magnesium flakes. I see the mites come out. And then lastly, I will take salt baths. Originally, I was doing different things like borax, boron, with mineral sea salt, and baking soda. Right now, I'm doing baking soda and Himalayan salt. I see the mites come out. And right now, those 2 things, chitosanase, the sea salt and baking soda baths, 3 times a week. I do that in the morning. And this has moved me forward tremendously in addition to the diet.
Well, that's wonderful. And so you would say you have your life back 80%, 90%?
I would say 99% because
wow.
Right now I'm dealing with just like a few. I'll feel them, as we know, the sensations that are horrible at nighttime when you lie down. You can feel that kind of jittery movement. And I used to feel bites. I hardly have any bites anymore. Severe bites in my heel. Oh, my God. I will still wake up my hands, as we know, the hands, the feet, the scalp, the gut. But the hands, I do have a little bit of, I could feel a stiffness in my fingers. And, again, these things haven't been there for probably years since 2015. There's something to getting these things out. But the baths, the salt baths, you have to dry them out. You have to dry them out. There's just no 2 ways about it. Because if you can get to the gut and just under the skin with the chitosanase, the bloodstream, that's great. But some of these will have their way of, going to these little places. And the salts, as we're porous, the skin is a breathing, respiratory. The salt will get those things out. It's amazing what I see every time. And I'll see, even after I've taken the bath, I'll see things coming out hours later. And I go, okay, on the bath days. And I think to myself, this is so simple and really inexpensive, and it works.
Right.
Yes. So
fantastic. So Robin number 2, would you like to ask Robin number 1 any questions of her experience?
No, I have experienced that very similar things with mites, and yeah, I know salt. I used to drive 3 hours to the ocean just so I could soak in salt water.
Right.
So,
yeah, and in my protocol it says you could use up to like 5 cups of Epsom salts in your bath to help deal with the situation.
Right.
So yeah, Mary, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask of Robin One?
No, I'm kind of in the same boat with her as far as being allergic to everything. You know, and I'd just like to remind everybody, you know, we're all different and all our parasites are different, so you got to kind of fine-tune the diet to your body.
Yes. You know, Robin number one made a very important statement, and that is the gut biome. The gut biome, in my opinion, is the first place to start. It's so important to have good digestion, because when the gut biome is out of sync, and some of you may remember a few Sundays ago, the topic was about prescription antibiotics and the dangers that they pose. And Robin number one just confirmed that, because the prescription antibiotics did what to your gut, Robin?
They were devastating. Even my mother told me as a baby I got somehow access to some liquid antibiotics. And, you know, I've just been experiencing all these problems since being a child. And, of course, having the wrong diet when I grew up on the East Coast. But moving out here to California, I've had much better diet overall. So it's helped me tremendously to sort of start moving forward. But I tell you, even right now, I am so careful. I mean, we're talking, you know the deal. Take Stevia packets with you to the restaurant, you know, have only the things I can eat, you know, and everything's a no, and, you know, everybody, you know, your life changes dramatically. But what's on the bright side, my husband has even modified his diet to removing dairy and moving other things and changing to a healthier diet where his gut's even getting to a better place. Now, just so you know, he's been minorly affected, hardly at all. I mean, really. But I had to say to him, listen, you need to stop sugar, just like I have, because we don't want any of this kind of traveling. It's highly contagious, you know, and so that has been, you know, a whole life journey in itself to have to change diet. The diet, like Richard said, I can't stress it enough. And what Mary said, each person's different. That is huge. You have to be diligent, strict, don't care what anybody else is consuming, doesn't matter. No alcohol, no sugar, no wheat, no starches, no white, anything. I mean, that's just the rule.
That is exactly right. And the key is make that diet work. Do whatever you have to make the diet work. Modify it, change it. There are things that many other people can have to make the diet work, and there are things that perhaps you can't have to make the diet work. That's number one. It's like you fall into this big pit, and the only way out is to figure it out yourself. And Morgellons and mites being the pit, the way out is making the diet work. So if it takes you 2 hours or 3 months, it's important to make the diet work, because you can get out of the pit as quickly as 2 hours, or it takes 3 months perhaps or longer. But you will get out if you make the diet work. Now, many people write me because, you know, we do have an online store, and it's theorganicskincare.com and many people write me and say, oh, Richard, I just can't afford all those supplements there. I can't afford your products. And I keep writing them back, make the diet work. You don't have to buy a darn thing from me. And you just listen to Robin number one share the things that she's done. And there's very little that she's gotten from the store. Very little. The kinase enzymes, perhaps, but very little. You can make the diet work. It is not an expensive process. It is not an expensive program. You have to eat anyway. And instead of eating the expensive boxed foods and prepared foods, you eat healthy, normal foods, and no fruit. You know, fruit's not cheap anyway. You know, it's lime or lemon, water. That's very inexpensive. You can flavor it with lemon or lime, you know, so make the diet work. So I want to thank you so much for participating today and sharing your experience. And we'd love to have you come back again in maybe 6 months or so, because it's inspiring. It's inspiring for others to hear that in spite of all the confusion, in spite of all the anguish, in spite of all the misinformation, once you're in this program, there's resources. Robin, during the course of the last year or so, did you take advantage of any of our coaches for our free coaching?
No, I didn't. I think I only corresponded with you. I mean, that's a great thing. I probably should do that. I didn't. I sort of just, you know, when you're so desperate, you sort of feel, I kind of went inward, and I felt like it was the biggest dirty secret of my life. And so my family, my husband's the only one that knows. Outside of 2 friends who I did meet another person who did get these mites, and she also had rats in her building. So, you know, I'll need to. I should take up the coaching. That would be really great. Because if anything, it's a moral support. It's knowing that you're not alone, and I think that's really important. Because I sort of did do this alone. I really did, and no one was with me. I couldn't get anyone on my team for the majority of it, you know. And then until I found your site, until my husband started seeing this is real, till, you know, these 2 people that I know were experiencing it. Now, I have to ask, is this becoming more of a regular thing? These mites, have they always been around? Have people always gotten infested? I want to know about that.
Well, I wish I could answer that question, but we'll never know, because doctors today don't even acknowledge. The only mite they acknowledge that lives in the skin is scabies. And the standard treatment is ivermectin and prednisone, double descending dose of prednisone. So when you mentioned ivermectin, I was thinking maybe they were also thinking you had scabies, but they didn't prescribe the prednisone. So I have no idea why they prescribed the ivermectin, which is, in my opinion, a rather stupid thing to do.
And Richard, I'm sorry, I don't know the difference between scabies and mites that bite. Is there a difference? Well,
sure, yeah. Scabies burrow under your skin, and a good dermatologist can actually see the burrows. The key, and they can take samples, but the key is to take the sample and catch the mite in the sample, because the mite isn't always, you know, the mite travels in the burrow, so they can take a sample from the burrow, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to catch a mite to identify. But according to... Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did have the burrows on my skin. I had the track marks, burrows on my skin.
Well, that would be indicative of scabies. And, I mean, they're no picnic either. According to Britannica, there are 40,000 different species of mites. And typically it's rat mites, bird mites, no-see-ums, the red mite. Those kinds of mites are the typical ones, along with scabies. So, you know, we'll never know whether you only had scabies and you were totally misdiagnosed, and our program worked for scabies. You know, I don't know.
And rat mites, isn't that called scabies, or are those different
mites?
I don't know.
They're different mites. They're, like I said, 40,000 different kinds. Rat mites, obviously from rats. Bird mites, obviously from birds, but they don't fly. Bird mites don't fly like you might think they would. And there are many airborne mites that people report. We don't know exactly what species they are, but that's where we, you know, use the electrostatic sprayer to just knock them out and get rid of them and disinfect. So we'll never know.
We'll never know. Those doctors were treating it for scabies originally, and that they are burrowing, and I did show the marks and everything. And, the only thing going forward is now, of course, I'm a cat lover, and so even the neighbor's cat, it's kind of like, oh, okay, at its head. I'm reluctant, and it's really heartbreaking because you feel like, oh, my God, I can't live. I mean, like, what am I going to do, live in fear? I don't know how to navigate.
Well, I guess you get your own cat and keep it indoors.
That's kind of the thing, huh? That's the thing. So
because,
I think
you mentioned. Did you say you took nitetemperan?
No, is that how you say it? Nitetemperan? I've been saying it the wrong way. Nitetemperan.
I always said
yes,
nitetemperan.
I did. That was the first one I took,
Mm-hmm.
based on seeing your video and your site. After I felt like, okay, that's only taking care of the bites, but it's not getting rid of these things, I went to fenbendazole. After I kind of got an inner nudge to move on to lufeneron, and then chitosanase. I didn't even know that wasn't even on the same. That's on you order that from your site, the chitosanase. That has been like, oh my God, the biofilm and killing that stuff, that has been essential.
Well, what that tells me is there was more involved in mites. We don't know what else is involved, but when you're dealing with biofilm, that's not necessarily something that's associated specifically with mites. That's also associated oftentimes with Lyme disease and Morgellons.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more there. There's more there than only mites. Because
isn't it true though that mites create nests? Because in my arm I could see this little sort of black little pod thing, and there's little places where I notice there have been more of an existence.
Oh yeah, they do create nests. And, well, whether or not they have a biofilm that protects their nest or not, I don't know. That's a possibility. There are a lot of things we don't know. We can only speculate. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to thank you so much for sharing your Sunday with us. And,
sure, you're welcome.
Yep.